In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 3 of the most common dating games men play, why men do them, and most importantly, how to respond in a way that flips the power dynamic in your favor. You'll learn how women who emotionally react to these games often end up losing both their power and eventually the guy as well. But the women who hold firm boundaries, stay composed, and understand what's really going on flip the script completely. That shift gets a man's full attention and makes her unforgettable. By the end of this video, you'll know how to recognize when a man is testing you and how to respond in a way that protects your power and resets the dynamic without begging, chasing, or explaining yourself. And most importantly, you'll see how responding differently not only protects your self-worth, but actually increases the chances of him developing deeper respect and attraction for you. Let's get into it. The first one we'll cover today is the hot and cold game. This is one of the most common games I think most of us ladies have experienced. A man comes on strong at the beginning. He texts every day, showers you with attention, says how amazing you are, maybe even makes you feel like things are heading somewhere real. It feels amazing. Then, just all of a sudden, his energy changes. He becomes distant. He stops texting you as often, or his words feel colder. You feel the difference, but you're not sure what caused it. And just when you start to give up on him, he turns the heat back on again, like nothing happened. This push-pull pattern creates emotional confusion. And it's addictive. Your nervous system starts craving the highs because you're constantly bracing for the lows. You start adjusting your behavior just to get back to that feeling of closeness again. And that's exactly what he wants. It gives him control. Some men do this consciously to test your investment. Others do it unconsciously because they enjoy the emotional power and ego feed it gives them. Either way, it's not about genuine connection. It's about seeing how you'll respond when he pulls back. Most women in this situation become anxious. They start overthinking, feeling insecure, and needing reassurance, so they try harder. They begin chasing him by messaging more, being more loving and giving, maybe even becoming emotional and needy and desperately trying to get things back to how it felt at the start. And this is where things really go wrong, because not only does that behavior send a message that they'll tolerate inconsistency just to keep him around, it also rewards him for it. She gives more of her time, attention, and emotional energy, while he needs to do very little. A high-value woman handles it very differently. When she sees he's becoming distant, she doesn't chase or keep messaging him. She simply stops reaching out, gets on with her life, and leaves the door open for him to contact her. This shift in energy is powerful. It disrupts the dynamic and creates space for him to feel the absence of her attention. Men often return when they sense a woman has stepped back and isn't waiting around, not because she chased him, but because she didn't. However, if he continues on with the hot and cold behavior, she's not afraid to walk away. She knows her worth, and when a man isn't treating her the way she deserves, she doesn't stick around hoping he'll change. Before walking away completely, she may choose to send a message to give him one last chance to step up. Something like, "Hey, I've noticed the energy's changed a bit. I'm not sure where you're at, but I'm looking for something consistent." If that's not what you want, that's totally fine. I'm not comfortable continuing something that feels this inconsistent. It's calm, clear, and it gives him one final opportunity to correct his behavior. If he does, great. If he doesn't step up and continues on with the hot and cold games, she doesn't repeat herself. She walks away. Game 2 is breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing is when a man gives just enough attention to keep you emotionally invested, but never enough to build anything real. He might send a few flirty texts, watch your stories, or randomly message you to say he was thinking about you, but there are no plans, no follow-through, and no real consistency. Let's be honest, you're not really in a relationship, you're not really building toward one, he's just stringing you along and wasting your time. But you're emotionally hooked, waiting and hoping for more that never arrives. Men do this because it gives them a sense of validation. They have no intention of taking the relationship further, but they don't want to fully let you go. I mean, why would they? They get your energy, your attention, validation, all without having to commit or invest. It's effort-free ego fuel. A lot of women respond by staying emotionally attached, sometimes for months or even years. They keep replying to the messages. They drop their standards for him, accept his breadcrumbs of attention in the hope that one day he'll finally step up. And they keep holding space for something that is never going to happen. A high-value woman sees breadcrumbing for what it is. She doesn't hang around waiting for him to step up, and she doesn't become needy or angry out of frustration at his lack of investment. She just becomes unavailable. She stops replying to lazy messages. She no longer gives her time or energy to someone who only shows up on his terms. Before stepping back fully, she might send one clear message, something like, "I've noticed the effort feels very one-sided. I'm looking for something more intentional. If that's not where you're at, that's okay, but I'd rather not stay in something inconsistent." That message cuts through the fog and makes clear to him what her standards are. If he was just keeping her on the hook, that option now disappears. If he values her, he'll step up. If not, she walks away with her peace intact and frees herself up to meet someone more suitable who can genuinely meet her needs. And that's what makes her different. She doesn't settle for crumbs. She doesn't reward minimal effort. Her standards speak louder than her emotions. The final game we'll cover today is boundary testing. This game is about subtle disrespect. He might joke at your expense, say something rude or insulting, or say something that knocks your confidence, then brush it off as just teasing. This also includes negging, where he gives you a backhanded compliment meant to create insecurity. Something like, "You're not really my type, but there's something interesting about you." Or, "You're cute for someone who's overweight." It sounds playful on the surface, but the goal is to destabilize your self-esteem and create an imbalance where you feel the need to prove yourself. If you laugh it off or try harder to impress him, he knows the tactic worked, and that tells him he can keep using it. Many women ignore this behavior because they don't want to seem sensitive. They excuse it or pretend it didn't bother them while secretly feeling insecure and upset about it. But in doing that, they silently tell him that disrespect is tolerated. Staying silent when you've been disrespected doesn't keep the peace. It just creates an internal war. Every time you silence your discomfort to protect his feelings, you send the message that yours don't matter. And that's not emotional control, that's emotional neglect of yourself. A high-value woman doesn't tolerate disrespect and doesn't let it slide. She just calmly but firmly sets a boundary. She might say something like, "That didn't sit right with me," or "I don't find those kinds of comments funny." Or if he does something really disrespectful, she might send a text like, "That comment felt off to me," I'm not interested in a relationship where I feel disrespected. If we're going to keep this going, I expect mutual respect. It's firm without being confrontational. And if he dismisses it or repeats the behavior, she walks. No getting upset, no argument, no asking him to treat her better. She just quietly exits, and that tells him she values herself more than she values his potential. Setting boundaries and being willing to walk away is powerful because it communicates two things very clearly: self-worth and emotional independence. When a woman sets a boundary, she's essentially saying, I know what I deserve, and I'm not afraid to lose someone who doesn't give me that. That quiet confidence is magnetic. It signals to a man that she's not desperate for his attention, approval, or affection. She chooses who gets access to her, and that access must be earned. Being willing to walk away amplifies that power. It removes any leverage he might think he has. It shows that she's not driven by fear of losing him. She's driven by a commitment to honoring herself. And that completely shifts the dynamic. It also creates respect. People value what they can't easily control. And when a woman makes it clear that she won't tolerate games, disrespect, or crumbs of effort, it forces a man to either rise up or fall away. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting your peace and inviting only those who are capable of genuine connection and respect. When paired with the courage to walk away, they become one of the most powerful forms of self-love and attraction. Why men pull away from emotional women but obsess over the one they can't shake. When a woman reacts emotionally to a man's games, when she chases him, gets upset, explains herself in long texts, or spirals every time he pulls away, it feeds his ego. He gets a sense of control from knowing he can trigger that kind of reaction. And at first, it might even be flattering for him. But once he realizes how easy it is to make her doubt herself, chase him, or overinvest, the respect fades. She becomes emotionally predictable, and predictability kills attraction. He no longer sees her as someone he has to work for. He sees her as someone he can easily manipulate, and eventually he gets bored. Now contrast that with the woman who knows the games and doesn't react. She doesn't chase. She doesn't engage in emotional argument. She doesn't reward disrespect with effort. Instead, she stays calm, sets her boundary, and quietly walks away if her standards are not met. That kind of composure disrupts the pattern. He expected an emotional reaction and her getting needy, but what he got instead is silence. And that silence says more than any emotional speech ever could. It makes him question her. It makes him realize she's not like the others. And if he's capable of growth, it makes him want to rise to meet her level. Men might stay with the emotionally reactive woman until they get bored, but they fall and won't commit to the woman who doesn't flinch. The one who's composed, grounded, and not easy to move emotionally because she represents a challenge. She holds the standard, and that standard forces him to decide whether he can meet it or lose access to her completely. Some men will test you, whether consciously or not. They want to know how much they can get away with, how invested you are, how easily your emotions can be influenced. Your response teaches them how to treat you. If you reward their games with emotional attention, the games continue. If you meet them with standards, boundaries, and calm emotional control, they either step up or step out. Either way, you win. You don't have to explain your worth. You just have to stop giving it to people who haven't earned it. The woman who stays composed, who communicates clearly, and who knows when to walk away, that woman is unforgettable. And in the end, she doesn't win by playing harder. She wins by not playing at all. If this resonated with you, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a comment below letting me know which of these games you've experienced and how you'll be handling them differently from now on.